on the day of my son's wedding. My grandson was in charge of escorting. After his duty, the moderator handed the microphone to him saying, "Sid, please give a congratulatory gift to the two of you." Everyone in the room was waiting for a message from the adorable 5-year-old. "However, I missed you, Daddy," he said in a loud voice, and the attendees gave a confused look at him. I panicked and said, "Marty, you're supposed to say, Sophia, congratulations on your marriage." "Right, next to him," I whispered in his ear, as if to say that it is different. He shakes his head. And when he said again, "I missed you, Daddy," he continued, "What? Daddy, are you coming?" That's right, he's coming. Seeing my grandson like a one-man play, the attendees were confused, and I couldn't help but laugh wryly. "What's going on, Side? You were doing so well at the practice." Maybe he was nervous and didn't know what to do, or maybe he suddenly felt missing his father, whom he hadn't seen at all. But anyway, he wasn't his usual self. I didn't know what to do with this situation, and my newly groomed son, who was trying to make a good deal of it. "Thank you, Sid." Saying that, he's trying to calm the situation down. Next to him, there was someone who was not calm. The bride's face is twitching. "Hey, do something about it." The bride instructs the ushers at the ceremony to let him go. The usher went to my grandson and grabbed his arm, and then he said, "Baby says Daddy is here." With a loud voice and a strong tone that echoed through the venue, he waved his arms away. The rebellious attitude and unusual expression of my grandson that I have never seen. I feel like I'm going to be upset about what to do. But I took a long, deep breath and crouched down to look at my grandson. "The baby's daddy in Sophia's belly is Marty, isn't he?" I spoke soothingly. As if to say that it is not, my grandson shakes his head frantically. "No, it's not Marty. Marty is Mommy's big brother." When my son saw it, he was too surprised to say anything. "What are you talking about? The father of my baby is Marty. It's Marty." The bride is irritated by this bizarre atmosphere. She urged the ushers again to let Sid out as soon as possible. "Hide, Baba is going to be late for work today, so Marty will pick you up." "Marty? I'm so happy. Sid loves you, Marty." "My name is Cecil. This year marks my 60th birthday. My husband and daughter died in an accident a few years ago, and now I live with my son, Marty, who is 28 years old and works at an advertising agency in New York, and my daughter's only son, Side. My daughter's husband is alive and well, but he is a bastard who wanders around, can't get a regular job, gambles, and is drunk. So I haven't seen him since she died, and I don't know where he is or what he's doing now. I work part-time at a lunch shop in front of the station, and I take turns with my son to pick up and drop off Side, the senior at the nursery school. I have the order of Horst Uvas for a banquet today, so I work late. That's why my son is in charge of picking up Sid. My son also cares for his son, and my grandson is very fond of him, and from the outside, he is a parent and child. My grandson, who was lonely after the death of his mother, is now smiling again and is living well thanks to my son. Side, sorry for the wait. "Sorry, Marty, thank you for your hard work. I missed you." Grandson hugged my son with joy. And as he was getting held high, my grandson noticed a woman standing under his line of sight. "I wonder who it is," to my grandson, who had such an expression and was staring at me with his head to someone who will be Sid's family, Marty's important person. Saying this, he gently patted my grandson's head. And next weekend, my son brought the woman with him. Her name is Sophia. She is a colleague of my son's company and 29 years old. She is pretty, has bright eyes, and is cute like a doll. My son introduced me to this person as his girlfriend. Actually, there's a baby in Sophia's belly. It's been 3 months now. I was surprised. My son tells me that he is going to have a wedding soon. He was also told that he was planning to get the wedding certificate on the same day. Congratulations. I'm sure your dad would be happy in heaven. I was honestly delighted. Are you okay with morning sickness? Can you eat? I was worried about her heavy body. I'm going to talk to my workplace and try to reduce my workload little by little, so it's okay. Thank you for your concern. Also about Sid. Mentioning that, My son said that even after he got married, he would continue to help me pick up my grandchildren and attending his events. Are you sure? I agree. Marty seems to be so happy when he's talking about Sid. I was relieved by his gentle smile. Then, my grandson comes over to her and sits down there. It's a girl. He pointed his finger to Sophia's stomach and smiled. What? It's been 3 months, and I don't think we know the gender yet. The three of us looked at each other and were surprised. Hyde may want a girl. I hear that he loves the little ones in the nursery. It is true that my grandson is a kind older brother figure to other kids, and he enjoys playing with children and dolls, according to his nursery school teacher. So I didn't pay much attention when he said the baby was a girl. However, a checkup that has entered the stable period reveals that the gender is a girl. On this day, my son and his girlfriend were out together. Speaking of which, Sid, didn't you say that the child in your belly was a girl before? Or she remembers that day. My son paused for a moment and said yes. He mutters certainly. It's a coincidence. The probability of a boy or a girl is half and half, right? I didn't particularly care about it either that day. And on the way home, I feel there's someone behind us. My son looks around. As Sophia moved her gaze around her, she saw a figure staring at her. She involuntarily exclaims, "Oh." Surprised by the act, my son reacts, "Oh, I forgot to buy green onions." My son says it's just green onions and tells her not to surprise him. I don't think anybody is watching. Let's go home. Saying this, the two of them started walking, and when she turned around again, the figure was gone. One day, after my son left for work, I was contacted by my workplace. The person in charge of the late shift said that he was sick and had to take a day off. So he called me to help. What should I do to pick up Sid? For the time being, I'll ask Marty. Hello, you can't do either. Oh, I see. Yes, it's okay. Thank you. My son worries me on the phone. Just as I was thinking about telling my work that I couldn't be on shift today, I got a call from my son. What's the matter? What? Really? Sophia? Yeah, okay, thank you. Suddenly, she decided to pick up my grandson. She was a wonderful bride who cared about her family, and my heart was warm. Her side, Sophia is coming to pick you up today. When I told my grandson, he said, I'm going to tell Sophia about my crush, and I was relieved to see him happy. Good evening, Sid. When she came to pick me up, my grandson was secretly whispering in the ear of the person he liked, just as he had told me in the morning. It's a secret, pinky promise. Saying that, they did pinky promise. Inside, do you always go home like this with your grandmother and Marty? That's right. They play rock, paper, scissors, take the rear, and sing songs that they sing at the nursery. He said they were walking home hand in hand. And she notices a figure. I'd wait here for a minute. When she told him that, she was talking to a man who was waiting a little further away. I've seen that guy somewhere, thinking he waited for her as being told. The man put his hands together and seemed to be asking her for something. She is in trouble. I didn't know you were the father of that child, and you were wrong. I wish it hadn't happened. Don't come to me anymore. Only the words he said strongly reached his grandson's ears. I'm sorry, I've kept you waiting. They started walking again. Suddenly, my grandson asks, Hey, Sophia, is this baby's daddy coming to the wedding? What? She stopped in surprise at the unexpected words, her eyes widening, and she forgot to take a breath. Your baby says I want to show Daddy how beautiful Mommy is. What's for dinner today? My grandson speaks in the usual conversational tone. However, compared to that, she has a lot of temperature difference. Hey, this kid's daddy is Marty. What are you talking about, Sid? Her voice got cracked, and her face turned pale at once. It was time for the next checkup. For our wedding, can Sid miss it? In the waiting room of the hospital, she said to my son, What? He's my nephew and I love him like a son. Of course we can't do that. The wedding was on a Sunday, and the nursery school was closed on that day. That's why there is no one to leave it, he added. It's okay, Sid can be quiet. You see, The little children of my relatives also come, so even if I get bored, I think it's okay to play with them. You know? It was a response that she expected, but she unconsciously bit her nails and had a somewhat anxious expression on her face. The next day, I'm going to finish work early today, so I'm going to pick up side. Sophia seems to have told my son so, and I decided to indulge in her words. I was grateful to her for willing to pick him up. Oh, well, I'll ask her then. Tell her thank you. I'll let the nursery know that Sophia will pick him up. At that time, I thought she was a wonderful daughter-in-law who would take good care of her grandchildren. My grandson doesn't hate her, but I was a little worried that it wasn't me or my son who came to pick him up. Sophia picked me up today. Are you and Marty busy? On the way home, my grandson asks. Then, suddenly, she stops on the spot. She bent down to Sid's eye level as she cradled her growing belly. Sid, I want you to promise me something. My grandson felt nervous by her serious, unprecedentedly expression, which was always smiling. Sid, please don't talk about the baby at the wedding. She brings her face closer and says, Okay, can you promise it to Sophia? My grandson, who was frightened by her face and her expression, who was so close, gasped slightly. And yes, okay, he replied as he was told. Last on the day of my son's wedding, my grandson was in charge of escorting. After his duty, the moderator handed the microphone to him saying, Sid, please give a congratulatory gift to the two of you. My grandson was practicing a lot in the bath and at the time of morning pickup. I remembered it perfectly from start to finish. Everyone in the room was waiting for a message from the adorable 5-year-old. However, I missed you, Daddy, he said in a loud voice, and the attendees gave a confused look at him. I panicked and said, Marty, you're supposed to say Sophia. Congratulations on your marriage, right? Next to him, I whispered in his ear. As if to say that it is not, my grandson shakes his head frantically. And when I said again, I wanted to see my daddy, he continued, What? Daddy? Are you coming? That's right, it's coming. Seeing my grandson like a one-man play, the attendees were confused, and I couldn't help but laugh. Right. What's going on, Sid? I wish I could have said it so well. Maybe he was nervous and didn't know what to do, or maybe he suddenly felt missing his father, whom he hadn't seen at all. But anyway, he wasn't his usual self. My son tried to make a good deal of it. Thank you, Sid. Saying that, he's trying to calm the situation down. Next to him, there was a person who was not calm. The bride's face is twitching. Hey, do something about it. And struck the ushers at the ceremony to encourage the grandson to leave. The usher went to my grandson and grabbed his arm, and then he said, Baby says Daddy is here. With a loud voice and a strong tone that echoed through the venue, he waved his arms away. The rebellious attitude and unusual expression of my grandson that I have never seen. I feel like I'm going to be upset about what to do. But I took a long, deep breath and crouched down to look at my grandson. The baby's daddy in Sophia's belly is Marty, isn't it? As if to say that it is not, my grandson shakes his head frantically. No, it's not Marty. Marty is Mommy's big brother. When my son saw it, he was too surprised to say anything. What are you talking about? The father of my baby is Marty. It's Marty. The bride is irritated by this bizarre atmosphere. She urged the ushers again to let Sid out as soon as possible. On the other hand, my grandson talks more and more. He seems different from earlier and now started to smile. Yes, that's right. It's your daddy. You finally got to see him. He says that to the bride's belly. What's going on, Sid? The ceremony hall is in an uproar as curious eyes are focused on the appearance of a small child who seems to be something. The bride becomes more and more frustrated with my grandson, who cannot be easily controlled. My son, who was unable to speak, now scratches his head and reveals an incomprehensible. After that, put an ear on the belly of the bride. The bride stares at the situation, as if playing the message paces in game. Are you over there? Where? My grandson was stretching and jumping to look around the ceremony hall. What? Over there? I decided to accept my grandson's strange behavior for the time being. Sid, where's baby's daddy? I spoke to my grandson to soothe him, Then he points to somewhere, saying, over. At that moment, there is a sudden silence, and everyone, including the attendees, all at once looked in the direction he was pointing. When I looked in that direction, I saw a shabby-looking man with a shabby head and stubble beard, not even wearing a suit, standing at the wedding venue. My face suddenly changes, and the bride involuntarily muttered, "I told you not to come anymore." There's the father of my grandson. Indeed, my daughter's husband stood there. What? Why? I was stunned. Who is that guy? Voices such as disgusting are heard, and the ceremony hall is noisy again. You're kidding. Why is that man here? Collapses to the ground with his knees bent and weak. My grandson doesn't care about that kind of atmosphere. The baby was talking to Sid's daddy, so it's good to see him. He put his mouth to the bride's stomach and happily conversed with the inside of her stomach. Then, come on. Stop it. The bride stood up suddenly. She couldn't stand it anymore and walked out of the ceremony hall. Wait a minute, Sophia. We tried to hold her back. Ahead of us, there was also the father of my grandson. What the hell is this? My son crammed into the bride as she looked down. Explain it to me so I can understand it. I asked my grandson's father. Just wanted a glimpse of Sid. Don't kid yourself. You're no longer qualified to be Sid's father. It's so selfish. I said so with anger and hatred. Then the bride, who had been silent, lifted her wedding dress with both hands and walked slowly towards my grandson. You promise not to talk about the baby? She seems out of her mind and reproached my grandson in a terrible manner, shaking his shoulders. What are you going to do to Sid? I said in a hurry, hugging my grandson to snatch him away and leaning over to protect him. I'm sorry, baby, she said. She really wanted to talk to her dad. He started crying loudly. I hugged him and rubbed his back repeatedly, saying, It's okay. Gently stroking his head, who suddenly began to cry, Marty said, Sid, don't cry. Baby's daddy is the same as Sid's daddy, isn't he? When he asked gently, my grandson nodded nervously, holding back tears. Then he stood up and approached the bride once more and asked, I don't think Sid is lying. I'm not the father of the baby, am I? In response to the question, the bride remained silent for a while. However, as if she gave up, she said in a small voice, I'm sorry, She continued, he's a high school classmate, and when I met him at the reunion, I happened to, but only once. It's a one-time mistake. I can't believe it's Sid's father. My grandson's father ran up to the bride and tried to snuggle up to her. As the two of them did this, my son's body temperature went up at once. All the time, have you been deceiving me all along? Me and my mom? And Sid? Howl's eyes were bloodshot and full of anger. His hands were clenched into fists and wiggled slightly. I'm really sorry, please, forgive me. The father of a grandson is upset and can't say a witty word to her. Why was such a pathetic man? I won't get married. Sophia, you need to get out now. Don't show up in front of us again. Be gone already. My son shows his anger and tries to kick them out. I continued, how dare you betray my daughter, son, and grandson. Then, bang. We heard the sound of my grandson's father's right cheek got slapped. Even though it was caused by herself, she suddenly fell to the rock bottom. Her body was weak, and she managed to hold on to her feet and try to get out of the way. Then, Sophia, wait, my grandson calls out while wiping away tears. Then, with both hands, he put his hands on her stomach and brought his mouth closer. Sid, sister, how are you? I've been fine. I'll see you sometime. When he said that, she hugged her belly as the baby kicked her belly violently, and she broke down crying on the spot. I don't know what happened to them after that. However, I later learned that a healthy girl was born. One day, I want to be Sid's father, and I want to be by his side and watch him grow up. My son told me, thank you. I think Sid would be happy too. Your three-person life began again. Today is the day my son is in charge of picking him up. I'm home. Welcome back, Daddy Marty. They hugged each other heartily,